Okay. So generally, this semester, our focus on this particular course is industrialization in the developing world. This of you did the course last semester. Our emphasis was to analyze why locations or industries are located at a particular place. So out of that, we developed various theories. And last semester, it was basically about theories. Last semester. For this semester, our focus is only on theories. Our focus is to look at some industrial policies, okay, and also look at industrial theories. So you can see that from lecture 2 to lecture 5, it's about theories. Lecture 1 talks about introduction of industrialization. That's how industrialization has worked in advanced country and in developing countries, and how they continue to play a major role in our generation now. Okay. My microphone is working now. Okay, it's working now. My microphone is working. Okay, so let me continue. So in our current studies, please, if you join, kindly mute yourself so that we are not many here, so that we can speed things up. Okay. So with this semester, what we are focusing on is that we want to look at various people who have propounded theories about how industrialization should start in developing countries, how it should continue, and how we can even catch up with advanced countries. Out of this, you have a number of theories. That's from lecture 2 to 5. And the latter part of the lecture talks about some of the theories, some of the policies that has implemented over the years. So you talk about ISI, of which most of us are familiar. Talk about the one district, one factory, of which some of us are familiar. But for this lecture notes, let's focus on today. I'm going to treat lecture 1 up to lecture 5. Now, I'm not going to go in details like our lecturer did. As for that one, to be difficult because he used almost 6 weeks to tackle all this. I can't use just one night. Okay, I will try to do my very best for you, but I can't promise you that we will do everything in detail. So I'll just pick the points. Some of the theories are not understandable, meaning that when you read, you don't really get it. So I'm going to break it down for you. When I'm done, I'll focus on some of the areas that I think will come. But before I even proceed, let me give you some key areas. So we'll take your pen and write some of the key areas that I believe are coming. Now, from what I know from this lecture, there will be a question from lecture 1. Okay, lecture 1. Lecture 1. Lecture 1 talks about the industrial, how it started, how in both developing and developed countries, okay, and even our modern world, and some of the challenges it has encountered. So it's good that we look at lecture 1 too. Now, when you are done, last semester there was a question on globalization. I don't know if there was a question on ISI or exports, but I know for sure that there was a question on globalization and there was a question on colonial something. I think industrialization in pre-colonial, colonial, and something in Ghana. So probably lecture may know decide to repeat. But for the lecture 1, he may bring questions, but I know last semester those who did the course, he got some questions from there. So there could be a question from lecture 1. Also, with the theories, there are plenty for lecture 2 to 5 where we have some being the neoclassical, the radicals, and then dual sector model. If you want to focus on the theories, I want you to focus on just 2 parts of the theories so that you master them. One is the radicals, okay, the radical theories, and the other one is the dual sector model. Okay, the dual sector model. When I'm teaching, I get there, I'll try to break things down very down for you. Okay. So in lecture 1, with this particular lecture, our focus was to know how industrialization started in the advanced country. In advanced country, we're talking about currently advanced country. How did industrialization started from UK, US, the Australian we are seeing now. Now, let me briefly touch on it for you. Now, when it comes, they can ask you, give a brief account on industrialization in the advanced countries and some of the challenges they face, or they can narrow it to developing countries. give a brief account on how industrialization started in developing countries and account for some of the challenges that they have encountered or they faced. So once this question comes, you need to compare, even though they didn't ask you to talk about advance, you need to touch a little on the advance, not really deep per se, because the question is centered on Africa or LDCs. LDCs are least developed countries. So you can choose to explain something there, and then once you're done, you narrow it down a little to advanced country, then you tackle the question itself. Now, in the olden days, what happened was that most of the agricultural activities was what the advanced countries were doing. It was same Agrarian agriculture is agriculture. They were doing agriculture. So in agriculture, what were they doing? Most of them were subsistence farming. Subsistence farming has got to do with a cheap labor, no really investment, and they doing it for just or for a small family. Okay, until it got to a period where people started learning. I mean, when you do something for long, you become specialized in what you're doing. So those who were weaving actually specialized in what they were doing, and that was when that machine started. And the lecturer also emphasized that out of this, there was education going on. I mean, there was low-key education. Okay, there was education going on for all these people. So it got to a time that when industrialization started, then people started advancing in what they were doing. Education came to add up. Okay, but you need to give some features about how the industrialization started. Okay, so here, some small industries existed, some can be described as cottage industry, meaning that they are located in the village. Some were small scale and low technology. Um, a little manufacturing was carried in guild or artisan shops in town. So these are some of the key features that you can mention about what in advanced countries. I've not come to the LDCs. LDCs are least developed countries. So these are some of the technological, or should I say, how industrialization started. Okay, in the advanced country. Until there was education. Okay, there was education where they go to 1800. So evolution or industrial evolution or revolution started from where? Between 1700 and 1800. That was where industrial revolution started. That was where people started producing machines. Actually, their first focus was on roads. Okay, so how do we ease transportation? How do we make sure that we are able to transport our resources, our mining, everything from one place to another easily? So that was the main focus. So after you've mentioned that all these happened, then you narrow it down to the fact that out of between 1700 and 1800, that was where industrialization has got to do with growth of industries due to technology, due to knowledge. So you can mention some of the things that they started. Examples include workshops. Examples include sales. Examples include ships. I mean, mini ships, not the huge ships. Examples include construction of roads, railway roads, or let's say railway roads, including railway and all that. So there are some key elements of what technology, how it started in advanced country. Okay, please, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then let's continue. So this guy, James, is it Hargreaves or something? He produced the spinning jenny that produces clothes faster. This guy. So that please, if you join, kindly mute. Okay, let's continue. So there was at that time in the Industrial Revolution, there was improvement in science. So it added up to the technology that we are experiencing now. Okay, good. And there was a mass production. So basically, my focus may not be here. It will be a question. The lecture will actually narrow it down to the least developed countries. So let me go to that one. Okay. Okay. Favorable conditions for industrial revolution in Britain. Okay. So what actually provided or what actually gingered industrial revolution in the Britain, or not only Britain, in other advanced countries. There was adequate labor. Okay, labor is a must. I mean, you can't do production without labor. There was sufficient quantities of energy supply. Energy supply has got to do with either coal or electrical energy. There was an improvement in transportation. Okay, there was availability of markets. Market means that, and they were using the colonies. You understand? Yes. So when you talk about availability of markets, your focus should be on the colonies. Okay. There were banks and other stuff that encourage trade and industries. Okay. So the banks were around to actually provide investments, keep people's money and all that. So all these were features that actually gingered industrialization in the developed country. Okay. Okay. Now my focus is on here. Let me come to this part where our focus is this semester: manufacturing in developing countries before modern industrialization. So yeah, they'll ask you to give a brief account of industrial revolution even in Africa, okay, or even in Ghana. Ghana is not different from any African countries. If they say in Africa or Ghana, the same points can be raised and account for some of the challenges it has faced over the years. Okay, so within the olden days, what we're using household things. So you could see that those of you from traditional homes, some of you are from locations where they weave. Okay, they weave clothes, they weave bean baskets. I've seen some before. The baskets that women take it to market. We have people who their main work is to weave them. Okay. Some of the products became important items of trade. Okay. So some of the things that I mentioned, for example, weaving of buckets and all that, they all became important part of trade. Yes, we have colonial people who actually, because some were competing with their product in the market, they had to overshadow it. So most of the traditional handicrafts and cottage were not promoted by the colonial government, and consequently, some of them died a natural death. A natural death means that you die on your own because the colonial masters were not promoting it, because it was competing with theirs or what they were importing. Okay. Okay, there was a fear of competition and local product versus manufacturing products of the colonizing countries. In Ghana, products making such as smokes, straw mats, smokes, particularly straw mats, wood carvings. When you go to the hotels and guest houses, you have all these things. Boat buildings, iron works, pottery has survived until this modern era. Okay, let's look at rationale for pursuit of modern industrialization by developing countries. Meaning that what was the reason why developing countries had to adopt industrialization? What were the main reasons why developing countries had to adopt productivity or industrialization? Point number one, the impact of manufacturing on the economies of the advanced country has encouraged less developed countries to adopt this. You can see that you can't trade with somebody when the person is more stronger than you. So because we are developing countries, we realize that we are always in touch with these white people, trading with them. We saw it as a major role, or we saw it as a major relevance to what? To go in and adopt another development strategy for industrialization. That will help us produce more goods so that we can also export and generate revenue. Okay, so that's the first point. Industrialization is a necessary condition for raising productivity and standard of living. So regardless of political ideology. So industrialization, as you know, is a necessary for raising productivity. What does it mean? When people work, they get paid. Okay, they get paid. So when you work and get paid, you end up buying more things. When you go to some of the theories, you understand, you end up buying more things and it's increased production. And it happens that way. You are increasing productivity of the country, or you're increasing the GDP of the country. Okay, and it works no matter what. If you are a country and if you practice industrialization, no matter whether you practice democracy or autocracy, we see that you advance in what you're doing. Okay. The manufacturing sector also provide the largest component of the total contribution of the industrial sector to GNP of many developing countries. Do you know GNP? Please, who doesn't understand GNP? I want feedback. Who doesn't understand GNP?
Is it gross national product?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, when we say GNP, we are looking at the fact that we have some Ghanaians living abroad. Okay, we have Ghanaians, some of you have relatives who are living outside. Anytime we are calculating GDP or GNP, we consider all Ghanaians living abroad. So when we capture the incomes of Ghanaians living abroad, minus the income of foreigners in Ghana, and we add it to our own GDP, we get the GNP. So let's assume that at the end of the year, we realize that all those foreigners in Ghana here earn 1,000 Ghana cedis. And all those Ghanaians who are in the foreign countries, they earn 1,000 Ghana cedis. You understand? So it cancels out, meaning that our GNP will equal to what? Our GDP. Okay. When you add these two plus the GDP has got to do with anything that we produce in the country. You end up getting a GNP. So when you factor the foreigners or Ghanaians living abroad minus foreigners living in Ghana, that's where you get a GNP. Okay. So the manufacturing sector provides a very large component of it. Okay. It is also believed to provide the greatest potential for increasing productivity, growth, dynamic increasing returns to scale, rapid technological progress, and various dynamic externalities to the entire economy than any subsector of industry. So they are talking about what we discussed earlier, that GNP, when you practice industrialization, it adds up to what? Your GNP, and it contributes larger components. Why? Because one, your people will be working in other countries, okay, and other people will also be working in your country. So in a way, you're going to work and earn something here. The foreigners in Ghana, they will work, and then you earn something here, which will add up towards your GDP. Okay. So these are some of the reasons why industrialization was pursued in most African countries. Okay. Conventional arguments in support of industrialization. Industrial goods demands for agricultural outputs. Okay. Industrial investment is more inter-complementary than agricultural investment. I'll explain them. Industrial goods release balance of payment problems. Industrial goods also expands savings. What it means is that what are the things that we believe industrial or industrialization provides to us? What is the role or what is the significance? Or what is the significance of industrialization to us, developing countries? We say that it provides what industrial goods demand for agricultural outputs, meaning that if you have an industry in your country, when you produce maize, you have a company that will take the maize and process it so that some don't go to waste. When you have an orange farm, you're going to produce an orange fruit. So you get a lot of people, you have a lot of company, they will take the food, process it towards fruit juice. That's the first one. Okay. Industrial investment is more intercomplementary than agricultural investment. What it means is that when you invest in agriculture, the outcome or its significance is greater than when you invest in when you invest in industry, it is more significant than when you invest in agriculture. Let me put it that way. Industrial growth release balance of payment problems, mean that when you foster industrialization as a country, you'll be able to export the goods that you sell. Now, if you add value to what you export, it gives you more revenue than when you export the raw products. Okay, it expands savings, meaning that it adds up to what you have already. Okay. Industrial growth diminishes fluctuations and economic stability of incomes, tax receipts, and others. It also increases economic flexibility and it expands employment. So when you go And they ask you what are some relevance or what are the uses of industrialization to developing countries, you can add these points. Okay, it expands employment. It also increases economic predictability. It promotes industrial growth, diminishes fluctuations. Okay, fluctuation has got to do with a situation where economy sometimes goes down in terms of, should I say, in terms of production. So you go down, it's like they're not able to produce as you used to. And if you rely on only agriculture, to get to a time when agricultural things goes down, your economy goes down. But if you have an industry that will process the agricultural products, you end up having what you call stability or economic stability. Okay. So what is the current situation of manufacturing industries in Ghana? Okay. Please give me 1 minute. Robert. Okay, let's continue. Current situation of manufacturing in developing countries. Okay. Industrialization, but please, the point that I raised earlier, this point is very critical to me, is very, very dear to me. Conventional arguments in support of industrialization, or under what circumstances, or what is the role of industrialization to developing countries? You can use these same points to explain your points in case it comes. Okay. Let's go to current situation of manufacturing in developing countries. Industrialization has been the main hope of poor countries to increase their level of income. Manufacturing has transformed some developing countries, notably in East and South Asia, and to some extent, some countries in Latin America. In most Africa, it has been of a hope than a reality. Talking about here is trying to tell you that has industrialization really worked in developing countries as anticipated? And they are given account that yes, it has been experienced in some places, especially with Asian countries and all that. Okay, good. And it has been the hope when it comes to Ghana here. That is what we are trying to do now. One, two, one, four. It's been the hope for most poor countries. But the reality is that it's been a hope project. Like we are only anticipating that one day will become industrialized instead of working for it. So it has been more of a hope than a reality. Okay. So let me quickly touch on the challenges. If there'll be a question from this side, it will be give account of the industrial revolution of Africa, okay, and account for some of the challenges that's faced in modern times. Okay, good. So please, when you're given industrial evolution didn't start only in the Britain or something. It started everywhere. Okay, that's why we started earlier. But the main point of reference is that we use the UK, we use the Britain, but they were producing a lot of things. Okay, so let's look at some of the challenges of industrialization in developing countries. What are some of the challenges? One of them is high population growth, which offsets advances in output and income. Now, our population is growing more than we know, more than we expect. So what do you realize? Realize that instead of we using the additional income to what, to finance or expand projects, we are using our income to take care of the growing population. You understand? Money for PHS that we could use to expand projects, but they are using to what, to educate some of your younger siblings who are in the SHS. Okay. Poor market mechanisms which are either non-existent or work poorly. So yeah, Ghana, when it comes to Africa, we have poor market mechanism, meaning that the market mechanism could be a price or something, meaning that maybe when you produce, the thing doesn't, people don't see a value in it. You bring things to the market and people want to buy it at a lower price. Now, when you buy it at a lower price, how do we expand it next time? You get it? Yes. Poor infrastructural base. This is, I think this is a problem that we are all familiar with. We don't have the infrastructures to meet the conditions that will make us industrialize. We don't have the capital. We don't have the machines. We don't have good roads. You get it? All these are infrastructure based. Low level of skills and poorly educated population. It's quite fortunate that gradually Ghana is growing into a very good country or a very advanced country where we are much focused on education too. So one of the challenges facing industrialization in Ghana now or Africa now is low level of skills and poorly educated population. Okay. Political instability. This one you cannot link it to Ghana, or somehow, some way you can link it to Ghana. But in our current situation, you're not facing any political instability. Okay, political instability is why a country is not peaceful. There's coup d'etat and all that, and that's been one of the challenges in Africa. Recently, something happened in Niger. I hope you're all following the news. There was a coup d'etat. There's a coup d'etat at Niger. Yes. So you can link it as an example to explain your point. Another one is low level of administrative capacity. We don't put the right people in position. Okay. When you have talented people handling your business, you wouldn't have to struggle. When you're not there, they will take care of your business. But Ghana, even the same. It's who knows you. So we end up putting the wrong people in the right positions. Okay. Another point is pervasive corruption among politicians. Pervasive corruption. So this is not a point that I have to even touch it. That our politicians are corrupt. So if they give them money to carry out projects, they take up the money, they keep the remaining half. Bureaucratic elites. What does it mean? It means that before you can even implement any industrialization in Ghana, you have to go through some process. You have to go to the municipal assembly. You have to go into the land commission. You have to go and see Ministry of Lands and that. You have to go before you go through a lot of process. That's mean by bureaucratic elites. Low level of agricultural production. Well, due to the fact that most of our agriculture are subsistence, meaning that we don't really put much into capital into it. It's more or less farmers who are using their energy. You're not able to get the agricultural output as expected. Okay. Lack of capital. The lack of capital has got to do with money to start business. This point is facing looking at money. Unfavorable international trade system, meaning that even if you still grow your industry and become strong, the issue of exploitation, the issue of externalities play a major role. Because at the end of the day, you still sell the market, you still producing. When you send your cocoa into the market, they will tell you this is how much you want to buy it. If you don't like it, you can take it back. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing as a country or as a continent in achieving industrialization. So for me, a question from here, and of course, you could expect a question. So first of all, I talk about advanced country. I talk about how they started from the things that they were doing from Algerian. Algerian is that they were more into agriculture. I heard they were using low level of energy, low investment, low level of nice technology and all that. And it goes to a time where people started being educated and people started becoming specialized in what they do until there was a boom, or we call it industrial evolution, in the 1800, between 1700 and 1800, where the companies or industries started emerging. And most of them, their focus was on two roles. Okay, good. When it comes to the local industries, so there were so many conditions that supported the growth of these advanced countries. The presence of labor, the presence of capital, banks, education. These are all factors that contributed to the advancement of these countries. Now, when you narrow it to Africa or developing countries, how did we start? We started with petty things. But because we colonized, most of the people, or the white people, ended up collapsing our business, okay, because we were competing with ours. But gradually, we gained it and we started until independence, okay. So, explain this one, you can mention some of the things that have still existed or that has still played major role. And they give example like smokes and all that. Okay, so Ghana too, we are practicing agriculture. We're no different from the advanced country. Okay, when you are down, you will narrow it down to some conditions why local, should I say, African countries or least developed countries pursue industrialization? Why do you think it's necessary? And we talk about the fact that it creates employment, it expands, how do you call it, GNP, okay? It adds up to savings, it expands savings, creates employment. What's in them? Let me go back in. Where are they? Okay. It creates demand for agricultural output, good. It grows, industrial goods, release balance of payments and all that. So these are some of the advantages or reasons why Africa as a country, when you pursue industrialization, is good for you. So that's all for lecture one. That's all for lecture one. Please don't be any question beyond what you've done so far. Any question? Then I'm going to lecture two. Now the theories, I'll be very straightforward. I'll just try to explain them for you. I can't go through all the theories. There are plenty. So as you read, I'm sure, I hope you'll be able to understand one or two. Because I'm going to explain the theories in simpler terms. Very, very simple. Any questions so far?
No, let's go on.
Okay. Then let me show on the screen. So in lecture two, we're going to talk about the theories. Now, what are theories? Theories are assumptions or perceptions of people who state how things should be. So if I sit down, do my research, I realize that students who join my Zoom meeting, they end up getting or passing. You understand? It's a research. I'm just taking assumption. So after a long year, we assume that okay, then if you join by this meeting, then you're going to pass. So it's like an assumption. It may be true or it may be false. It may have criticism. Somebody will say, no, 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 no. Maybe oh, son knows the lecturer, so he goes to you and the lecturer gives him the question. Somebody will say, oh, no, 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 no. Sometimes even what he teaches doesn't come. Sometimes someone will come and say, so these are what we call theories. Theories are people's assumptions and people have issues with what they think. So let's go through this and let's see. Now I've seen a question under this particular topic. Okay, I was saying that if there'll be a question under the theories, it will be two. The dual sector model or the radicals. The dual sector model or the radicals. If I were to be you, I will study the two. They are not difficult. They make sense. And you know what? You don't have to write everything in the slide to the lecture. And I suggest that every theory, you know the person's name, the person provided a theory. Because if they tell you to discuss about the dual sector model, you should know is Arthur Lewis there. You can't ignore. You have to mention his name. How can you talk about a theory without mentioning somebody's name? You get it? Good. So these are key things you need to know. Let me share screen. I'm sharing screen already. Share screen. Okay. So these are under.
He said you look at the dual sector and the radical.
Please.
He said we discuss about the dual sector and the radical. So yes. Which one is the radical?
The radical is I think lecture 5 also.
Please come again.
The radical is the one lecture 5 or lecture 4. It's the one lecture 5.
Okay, so it's a topic on its own.
Yeah, the radical theories. Under the radicals, we have like two theories also. So please, even if you won't do anything, learn the radicals for the part A, learn radicals, learn the dual sector model or theory, and then learn what I just taught the lecture 1. You are good to go for part A. For part B, I'm expecting to get a past question this evening and give you the core areas. Once the first question comes, but you should focus on the ISI. Okay, the ISI. But last year there was a question of globalization. The lecture wants to be something different. And then apart from the ISI, we focus on the one district, one factory. The last one lecture was as lecture 10. If you're able to master these, I think you're good to go. I can promise you that. You're able to learn ISI, then one district, one factory, you are good to go. Please, I suggest every part you master 2 topics, at least 2 topics. Yes, sir. Master one night, one. You can't come and blame me. So if you're able to master like 4 topics after that, you are very good to go. Very, very good to go. So let me start with the theories. Okay. So this first theory is called the balanced growth theory. This was you did I think regional last semester. I think we all did it. So we're here. I will still touch on it for you. Okay. The first theory is the balanced growth theory. That's what it was, mini unbalanced theory. Okay, that was last semester. But this year we are dealing with the 2, the balanced growth theory and then unbalanced growth theory. So when you say unbalanced, what do we mean? We are looking at, when you say balance, sorry, I'm looking at the fact that this man, which is Rosenstein Rodan, Rosenstein Rodan in 1943, a Polish-born economist. Okay, he said that, well, if you want to advance as a country, okay, you want to advance as a country, what do we do? We should practice investment. So this particular theory, the first perspective, is about investment, but each of them is specific with its investment, and that's what I want us to analyze. The theory proposes massive industrial development as a way to growth and progress for backward areas. What it means is that if as a country, if you want to develop, what do? You need to practice what you call, the one I've highlighted is very, very important. Okay. The country, what do? You need to make sure that you have adopted industrialization. If Ghana wants to develop, Ghana has to adopt industrialization. If Senegal wants to develop, make sure Senegal wants to adopt industrialization. He expanded his argument further into a theory, the big push as a precondition for growth. So we are going to look at the big push. He said that before a country should become industrialized, first of all, you need to set up before a country can achieve economic growth, first of all, you need to tune up your mind to what? To industrialization. And that's, he expanded his argument to what we call a big push. A big push is a condition you need to meet before you can get to that level. Let's look at the big push. The big push is a way that nations or poor areas could break out of low income. Okay, and the big push is industrialization, meaning that as a country, you adopting industrialization. That's the big push. Okay, the one I've highlighted. Let me go in this one. The state's involvement in education of the workforce and in planning and organizing of large-scale investment programs. What it means is that the state has an active role here. As a nation, what's our role? As a government, the government's role is that he has to plan and organize a large-scale investment program. A large-scale investment program is an investment program that has formed to affect major parts of the economy or major sectors of the economy. So it doesn't affect only those in Accra. It's affecting nationwide, every part of the economy. Okay. Investment must be large scale in order to be self-sustaining. Meaning that it should be big enough and it should be sustaining. If it's not big enough to actually touch the rest of life, it can be sustaining. Launching a country investment and other initiatives. So that is what I think our government is adopting. So what they're doing is that, have you heard about YouStart? Okay. So YouStart is a business initiative in Ghana that aims at supporting small companies or small businesses. So if you see that, okay, you're advancing or you're growing up as a country or as a entrepreneur, let's say you sell chalewati, or you manufacture shoes. We say, okay, these are what we can produce and we support you. Okay. But it's another regime of the government. For example, for he initiated that one. So launching a country investment, another initiative, is part of it, or they are all part of it. So that before a country could become industrialized, you need to focus on these things. Okay. Please, are we clear with this? Who didn't understand this one? The first balance growth theory. So one, what you need to understand about this point is that one, as a country, if you want to be industrialized, you want to advance in economic growth, that's the condition. What do you have to do? You have to adopt industrialization. And adopting industrialization does not mean that just industrialization. You need to adopt industrialization that will come with a large scale investment. A large scale investment is such that you touch major factors of the economy. Okay, to touch a lot of lives. Because when you have a lot of people who are being affected or who are being given capital to start their business, you end up accumulating a lot of revenue or a lot of incomes. Okay, and he set a precondition, which is what the big push. The big push is simply industrialization. That as a low and poor income country, a country who has a low level of unemployment, so your only breakthrough is through what? Industrialization. Okay. And how do we overcome that? He set a condition for that one too. That one, the government should come out with investments and initiatives that are what large enough and should be sustaining. Like how I gave an example, the youth business. I think there are other business initiatives that the government has started over the years. I don't really know all of them, but I know for sure the government has started all of them, some of them. So let's go to the second one, which is what Ragnar Lux, whatever. Another notable contributor to the balanced growth theory, who developed the ideas of Rosenstein-Rodam. So it's like a continuation of what this man came to say. So I'm sure he also touched on investments. He will not touch on anything different from what Chairman came to say or the first one came to say. Developing countries were caught up into interconnected vicious poverty cycles of both supply and demand in nature. Yes, a minute. Okay. The preconditions for breaking out of poverty were the creation of strong incentives. Okay. Strong incentives. I repeat, strong incentives to invest along with increased mobilization of what? Investable funds. So he actually buys into the idea of what? A large scale investment. But he was being specific with his investment, saying that the investments on a large scale could be what? Incentives. So if you're a company and you started, we can give you a tax-free. We won't take your money. Produce your stuffs and we won't take your money. Okay. We won't take you any tax. The government can even give you sometimes some training, on-job training. Okay. So these people are talking about rebalancing all sectors of the economy, so that you balance if you balance industrialization, it will balance the health sector. If you balance industrialization, it will balance the agricultural sector, because at the end of the day, the agricultural sector will supply boost towards the industrial sector. Okay. Let's continue. This required a significant expansion of the market through simultaneous, massive, and balanced capital investment in a number of industrial sectors. So please understand the good growth theory, the balanced growth theory. Balance means that we want to achieve balance in the economy. So anytime you want to achieve balance in the economy, what do? You need to invest in industrialization. So anytime you become industrialized, you end up balancing all the sectors of the economy. Okay, you end up balancing the service sector. Okay, you end up balancing what you call the agricultural sector, because like I said, they'll produce most of the goods for you. Okay. Active intervention of the state is key. Here too, he mentioned that the role of the state is very, very important, meaning that government should intervene. Okay, in terms of the incentive provision, in terms of the investment capital to start. Okay. Please consider this as a typical strategy for initiating capital accumulation on a large scale. Okay. So that is it for the balance growth theory. Now let me quickly summarize the balance growth theory. What they're saying is that anytime you hear a balance growth theory, we want to ensure that there is a balance in the economy. Balance in the economy says that all the sectors, Ghana here, you come here, we have three sectors: the service sector, the industrial sector, and the cultural sector. They achieve what we call the optimum. And what these people are saying is that if you want to achieve a balanced growth theory, then you need to practice industrialization. So the first man, Regna, for instance, or something, what he focused was that we should, as a country, if we want to achieve industrialization, then let's see what we call investment on a large scale. That should be sustaining enough. Okay. And this man came to talk about investment and all that. But he said we should provide incentives because we are caught in what we call vicious cycle of demand and supply. So when you practice what you call incentive, you end up boosting the whole economy. Now the concept of demand and supply has got to do with the agricultural sector and the industrial sector. They depend on each other. Okay. So we are demanding for agricultural inputs and you are supplying. That's what he said here. So when you see that we are caught in viscous cycle in the latter parts, what's the name? The Wagnanux. What he's trying to say is that when it comes to the most least developed countries, we are caught in viscous cycle where the agricultural sector is trying to provide or supply raw materials to the industrial sector. And the industrial sector is also demanding for what raw materials. That's the meaning. Okay. So here we're talking about investment, government intervention, and what making sure that all the other sectors of the economy are balanced. That's for balanced growth theory. We are done. And let's go to unbalanced growth theory. So after these people have come to say, okay, then let's make sure the economy is balanced or all sectors are achieved. Okay. There came another man, which is called Albert Hicksman. Okay. I think we all did Eugene development. We remember under the unbalanced growth theory where Albert Hicksman was mentioned there. Do you remember? Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. He's also economist. So this course is more or less economics who are propounding theories. This is what doing economics. We actually studied about this man when it comes to it. So we studied about Albert Hicksman. A number of economists, notably Albert Hicksman, criticized the idea that growth process could be initiated with balanced capital investment in several sectors at the same time. There was a need to maintain and intensify imbalanced investment in backward economy because there are other barriers in growth and limited markets and lack of capital investment. Okay, so what this man is saying is that apart from what the last man said regarding the viscous cycle of demand and supply, there are other conditions that prevent us from advancing in what you're doing. So it could be a political influence. It could be, let's say, inproductivity. It could be other things that prevents people from working, not really about investment and capital investment. Okay. So if you are focusing on the fact that these are the only two main things that will help you invest, there are other imbalances. You get where I'm coming from. There are other imbalances in the economy, like political interference, like people who are not productive, but they are holding positions what they are supposed to do. So when you experience that, you end up having what you call an unbalanced economy. And he actually also talked about the fact that as a country, as a nation, if you want to invest, it's only about investment and all that. We should focus on other sectors too, or other areas, or there will be issues arising from other areas. So let's look at some of the issues he's going to mention. He said the greatest problem of developing countries was rather lack of entrepreneurship and capacity and management capacity. So these people are talking about the fact that the balance growth theory, we should give investments and all that. But he is saying that no, there are other imbalances in the economy. And the imbalance I'm going to tackle here is what the entrepreneurship and management capacity program. Are we good? Please, do you understand the difference? I want feedback. Please, are we understanding? If I don't understand, I know I'm going back. Otherwise, I'll be talking with me. But I'm recording it, so whatever be the case, I'm going to upload it after here. I'm going to upload it after here. Okay. Let me continue. Consequently, rather than practicing balanced growth where resources will be thinly spread over several factors and managed badly, developed countries or developing countries, it's not developed countries. Developing countries should rather aim at selected key sectors which had many links and backward in the economy and therefore could pull at a part of the economy with them. So you see, when we're talking about the balanced growth here, we're talking about a large scale investment. A large scale investment. No. What Hexman is saying is that when you do that, you end up throwing resources away. Rather, if you see that, okay, Ghana here, when we channel our energy into producing of tomato, that will help us improve. Let's pick specific sectors. Let's pick particular areas and let's develop them. Do you remember? So this is where the good food theory comes. Next one is part of the good food theory. They are being selective. You don't just develop everywhere. So let's select, let's say when it comes to Accra, they like KK. So let's plant maize farm. When it comes to Kumasi, my people, they like to let's plant maize and let's plant cassava and what planting. When you go to my people in the Volta region, what they like, Akwele. So let's do something there. And to Zafi, when you come to me, people, I like bread. So you look at where I'm living and you come. So based on these things, or based on these sectors, but if you try to generalize things like how things are done, you end up with making unnecessary investment. So that's about the unbalanced growth theory. We understand. That was what Hexman was criticizing. Okay. So the unbalanced growth theory gives birth to what we call the good growth theory. Okay. And we did this in last semester. I want to even skip. But this semester, last semester, I personally taught this. And I even explained how you go around when exams comes. I personally taught this very well about good code theory. Good code theory, okay. By Francis Perrow. I think we are all familiar with it. Okay. Francis Perrow is that, well, we can't develop everywhere at once. So if we see that University of Ghana is a hotspot, let's develop University of Ghana and it will trickle down to UPSA, trickle down to PSEC, trickle down to Regional Atomic and other areas. If we see that, okay, Kaneshi is good, let's develop Kaneshi. Like it trickle down to those in La Paz, those are one circle, those are all those areas. You understand? So the good code theory is somehow related with what we call the unbalanced good theory. They give birth. Okay, the unbalanced good code theory give birth to what we call the good code theory. Okay. The core idea of the good code theory is that economic development or good is not uniform over an entire region, but instead takes place around a specific pole. So we can't have development taking place, and that's what this one is saying that no, we shouldn't develop. You have to focus on other areas. Okay, you have to develop. You have to focus on a particular sector that meets your requirements. Okay. So this is an example. This is done last semester. I won't go again. Okay. So they divided the good portfolio into two subsectors. I think last year it was center and periphery. So the same thing here. We call it the dynamic subsector, which are propellant industries, relatively large and fast-growing industries. And then we have the non-dynamic or impelled. So please, when I explain this, don't use the center and the periphery. It's a different semester. Use the what you call the dynamic subsector and the non-dynamic. So the non-dynamic is like periphery, more industry. The dynamic are advanced countries. Okay. So good poles were conceived as field of forces consisting of poles, essentially. These things I've explained already. So where we have particular agencies, Okay, we have particular pools where industrialization occurs. So in the good pool, there's a bigger industry, there's a smaller industry. So the smaller industry, let's say agriculture, supply raw materials to the larger industry. And we assume that the larger industry should help the smaller industry. But in real sense, or in most scenarios, it doesn't happen that way. Okay. So I think we are, so I want to touch on this one. Good pool corresponds to the leading dynamic subsector of the economy. It has been big and propulsive, and the dominance of its expressed backward and forward linkages to the manufacturing sector of the space economy. Backward linkage. An industry encourages investments in the earlier stage of production by expanding its demand for what input. So what do I mean by backward linkage? It's like the first stage. So I'm a small company. I have a bigger company. What do I do? Because I'm a small company and I produce the raw materials, I try to what? Send out my raw materials input because the larger company are demanding for it. That's my backward linkage. And my forward linkage is that after some time, we expect the same return. I mean, we expect the revenue. We expect that as the company progress, there should be that kind of, should I say, trickle down to the smaller company that provided the raw material for the bigger one. Okay, that's the meaning. So an industry encourages investment in the subsequent stages of production, either by transmitting innovations or effect of innovation forward. So that is it. So it's either the smaller company is being impacted or is being or has yes, is being experienced or let me know the right word is being impacted or gain something from what the bigger industry because of how it started or because of its connection with them. The backward linkage is where the smaller firm starts supply raw materials to the bigger industry. The bigger industry takes it. And as time goes on, we expect that there will be ideas of innovation that will come and trickle down to what the smaller industry. Of course, and it doesn't happen. Okay. Okay. Where is it? Okay. They attempted to wait. Linkages between firms were not considered sector-wise concentration of goods. He based his theory on Skepter's idea of the role of entrepreneurial innovation and large-scale firms. Innovation was a major factor considered in explaining the growth process. This takes the form of succession of dynamic sectors goes through time. I will explain this one again. Okay, so that is it about the good food theory. Okay. A special application of Pearl theory is a good food theory. Let's quickly bash through this and we go. I have to go to other theories too. Following Pearl, there have been attempts to rearrange the scope of the theory to incorporate spatial patterns. So there are some people who have actually contributed to the good food theory. They've added up to what Pearl said. Okay. Otherwise, Maida, Hexman, Goodeville, they are not trying to criticize, but they are trying to add their knowledge or add what they think or what they believe to it. So it's more or less academic contribution to it. The arguments were based on the theories of economic development as unbalanced processes. Okay. They attempted to identify basic reasons why development have to be localized in space and expose the nature and mechanism through which development impulses are propagated from a limited set of blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, all these things, it won't even come. But let me teach it. The application of space into Pearl's good for concept gave rise to the good center concept. But the view goods pose as sound processing a complex of propulsive industries, which induce further development of economic activity through zones or influence. So with the view more or less support the good food theory. Okay. Transmission over wide area is called spread or trickling down effect. This works through international trade theory. I think we've done this one. So that's basically this is the first theory, the good food theory. the unbalanced and the balanced group theory. That's all for lecture 2. Any question? My purpose is to let you understand the difference between the theories very well. Okay, so the unbalance, we're talking about the fact that in the economy there are some imbalances apart from the one they said everything has got to do with demand and supply. Of course, of which they actually channeled that for a country to be industrial, you have to propose for investment and what savings. And what the other theory said was that no, there are some other imbalances. So after the imbalance gave what we call the good pull theory. The good pull theory, of course, they are familiar with it. Thank you. Please, we are going to next theory. The theories are plenty, but I'm trying to just make sure I finish everything. Please, are we understanding? If you're not understanding, I'm working in vain. Are we understanding? Hello, I want feedback, please. I want feedback. Bongo, are you with us? Please.
Yeah. I mean, we understand what you're saying.
Okay. Akos, are you with us? Whose name is High? Whose name is Kill? Please, are we following? Essential. Are we following? Hey, people have whose name is Abina.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I just told you?
Yes, please.
So can you please explain the unbalanced growth theory for us in just 1 minute?
The unbalanced
Good.
growth theory.
Yeah.
Hedgeman said developed countries should aim at selected key sectors.
Okay. Don't read for us, we beg you. Don't read for us. You're reading for us. Oh, okay, Akos.
Oh, I'm not reading.
Okay. Akos, are you with us? Hello, Akos.
Hey, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, so you heard me right. I just taught the balance and unbalance, and I also explained the good growth theory. Can you summarize the balance growth theory for me?
I can rather do the good pool.
Yeah, I know, but I want you to do the balance for me. But do you understand what I just taught you? I'm taking feedback because I want to know if you guys understand the theory that I just taught you. So you don't have to qualify. There's nothing within the slide.
You understand?
You understand? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So let's continue. If you don't understand, you can maybe play back from recording it. Okay. Now let's go to our next theory. Okay. This is, I think, the dual sector model. Okay. The dual sector model. They just named that continuation. But this sector is the dual sector model. Okay. Development theories and the role of government. Okay. So here we have a man called Arthur Lewis. Arthur Lewis, please write this for me. So Arthur Lewis assumed that one, in any economy, there are two sectors. Okay. We have the traditional agricultural sector and the modern industrial sector. I repeat, the traditional agricultural sector and the modern industrial sector. Okay. So what they're saying is that one, the economy is also closed. So the lecturer can tell you it starts the assumptions of the dual sector model or and the Arthur Lewis model and give some criticisms. Please, right? They said 60 over 100%. discuss our leverage dual sector model and highlight some criticism raised against it in contemporary modern industrialization. So, little question. So let's continue. So these are some of the challenges, the assumptions you're going to list. Please, if it's an assumption, I'll tell you it's an assumption. Okay. 1, this model is assumed to work in a closed economy. Okay. A closed economy where surplus of labor in the agricultural sector is not productive and so moves to the manufacturing sector. That's another assumption. So we have two economies. One is a traditional agricultural sector. Let's say we have 2 towns. One is those in, I don't want to use let me use let me use Accra here. Okay. Let me use those in University of Ghana. We are Lagos. And let's say those are on UPSA. If they listen to this video, yeah, they will kill me. Those in UPSA, they are from, let's say, the village. You understand? And that village is classified as a traditional agricultural sector. I mean, what they do is a traditional agricultural sector. What are the features? They use their energy. They don't really practice capitalism. I mean, they don't add capital to what they're doing. And the other one is what's called a modern industrial sector. What's a modern industrial sector, right? Modern industrial sector is the one that has almost all of its industries working. So it has a lot of industries. It produces, it processes goods and services and all that. So the thing operates in what you call it. That's why it's called a dual economy or a dual sector model. Okay. So there is a surplus of labor in the agricultural sector, meaning that those in the agricultural sector are more than those in the industrial sector. So they are surplus. Okay. And so because they are surplus, they move to industrial sector. So those in UPSA move to Lagos. Okay. And they are attracted by wages that are higher in the agricultural sector, but fixed. So because the supply of labor is high. Now, these are economists. These are economists. If employers see that, okay, we have a bunch or we have a lot of labor in the market, they make the wage fixed. If you don't take the wage, go home. So we have the wage being fixed. Okay, good. And we have excess supply. Because of that, all those in the agricultural sector, all those from UPSA, they move to Lagos. They move to Lagos because there is excess demand for what? Labor, or there is excess supply of the labor. And also, wage is fixed. That's the most important thing here. Okay, let's go to another assumption. One sector is the industrial was a capitalized. Capitalized means that it is controlled by what? Private individuals. And the other sector is characterized as what? Subsistence sector, the agricultural sector. So we assume the University of Ghana is a capitalized sector. The other one is what? Is agricultural sector, which is the UPSA. So the capitalized sector employs wage earners, use capital for production, and paid capitalists for the use of capital. So what they do is that they employ workers. Wage earners are the same as workers. They use capital in their production, and they paid capitalists, mean that any additional capital they add to capital, they pay for it. So if I'm a company and if I bring in, I already have my buildings and everything, I bring in laptop or computers or machines, it's an additional capital added to the capital I had already. Okay. This sector, I'm talking about the capitalized sector or the industrial sector, is assumed to be technologically advanced. We are technologically advanced with high levels of investment operating in an urban environment. Have you gotten the picture? So we have two sides. One is actually down. It's a lot of workers. One is actually up and producing a lot of stuff. Okay. My water. The industrial agricultural sector was assumed to be of subsistence nature. So they're describing those at UPS that they are personal agriculture. And agriculture they are pursuing is even subsistence, meaning that it's more in nature. That is usually used to feed the families. Based on family labor, low savings, and considerable underemployment. You know, people don't even work their capacity. Please understand this one well. All these are assumptions. Entrepreneurs in the manufacturing sector will make profits because their prices are always above the fixed wage rate. That's another assumption. Now, if I employ you, marginal productivity of labor should be equal to your wage. That's the market thing. That's the economics thing. Meaning that if I'm employing you, how much you're going to give me should be equal to how much I'm paying you. But here's the situation where people in the manufacturing sector, right, say exploit those who are coming or those they employ, working for them to earn 2,000, they'll pay you 500 Ghana cedis. So you can see that the investment or the money that people are going to get or the profit they will get is what is high. That's what this point means. They purely assume that these profits will be reinvested, which should increase the capital stock. So what this means that the profits, when I say profits, I'm talking about the profits that they get from exploiting these from the agriculture sector. They are going to get it. And what are they going to do? They are going to use it to reinvest. I mean, they are going to expand it again. This in turn increase the productive capacity of the manufacturing sector and demand for labor will grow. So after we gain more money, we used to expand. We used to employ more people. We used to expand. We employ more people. We used to expand. And these people they are employing are not people from everywhere. They are people from agricultural sector who are of low value, meaning that they are not really strong. They are working below their capacity. So they bring them to town, which is called rural urban migration. And we employ them and we pay them at a lower wage. We gain more profits. We use the profit to expand our company. Are you with me? Okay. More workers will be employed from the surplus labor from agriculture. And the profit of the entrepreneurs will once again increase and be invested. So the more they do it, the more these people come from the village to join us in town, the more we're able to gain more money. Okay. The process is assumed to continue until all the surplus labor has been employed in the larger manufacturing sector. So this will continue until there is no more labor supply from the village or from UPS again. So all those who are partnering agriculture, you employ all of them into our company. You understand? So a structural change has now taken place, and the economy is no longer a traditional agrarian model, but it's now an industrialized economy. So when you see structural change, talking about a complete change of something. So if Ghana is able to move from a stage where we're able to eradicate malaria, we can say Ghana has gone through what we call a structural change, a change that affects everything or that changes everything completely. So here you see that they've moved all those in the subsistence agricultural sector in the village and brought them to industrialized sector, which is more advanced. And now they are paying them, meaning that there's no longer support from there again. Okay, that is the meaning. The key to development was to increase savings and what? Investments. Okay, so that is Arthur Lewis' concern. Arthur Lewis saw the modern sector as essential if this was to happen. Urban migration from poor rural regions or areas to the relatively richer industrial areas gave workers the opportunity to earn higher incomes and crucially save more, thus providing funds for entrepreneurs to invest. So what Arthur Lewis is that saying that if such thing happens, those of my friends in the village, in the UPS, will come to Legon, get job to do, they get paid. What do? They are going to save. That's the one part. Now, because these workers or because these employers are exploiting them and they are paying them a lower wage, they also gain more money to work to expand. So it's kind of going to expand with increase savings and investment. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. This will in itself generate demand, also provide funds for investment. Income generated by the industrial sector was trickling down through the economy. Lewis further expanded his model to cover an open economy. So initially, when I started, I said it's work in a closed economy. But I said Lewis was like it could also work in an open economy. One of Lewis' main conclusion was that trade between developing countries and industrialized countries did not promote growth and economic progress in developing countries. And it's true. So let's picture it. What Lewis thought is that let's picture Ghana as UPSA is a poor country. And let's picture USA, or we trade with China as slave countries, advanced country. Now, when you trade with them, what do you think will happen? They will end up pulling all your resources and they're going to cheat you and exploit you. So what Dr. Lewis was saying here makes sense. So you're going to get employed, all right, but they're going to pay you at a higher wage. Of course, they're going to export cocoa, but they're going to pay you at a lower wage more than you deserve. Okay, that's what Dr. Lewis was saying. Okay. Now let's look at some of the criticisms or some critiques of this theory. So from, well, you know what, if you're learning this course, what it is that from the assumptions, you establish your critiques. From the assumptions, you establish your critiques. So the critiques is that Lewis' model, in a rather simplified way, illustrates the process that took place during the industrial evolution. And now, many of the now developed countries, whether it can be used as a model for economic growth, whether it can be used as a model for economic growth in developing countries is debatable. The model has been subjected to wide range criticism. So these are some of the criticisms we are going to discuss. One, the idea that the productivity of labor, can in rural areas is almost zero, may be true for certain times of the year. However, during planting and harvesting, labor is critical to the needs of the village. What he's saying is that sometimes it's not always that people work below their capacity, there will be excess of loss of labor from UPSA. It will get to a time where individuals will be actively engaged in something. So it's not way that people will be lying idle or they'll be working below their capacity. Okay. The assumption of a constant demand labor from the industrial sector is questionable. So you can't always get the labor demand that you want. Sometimes people will not make themselves available. So this was part of the assumption that there is constant supply of labor. Increasing technology may be labor saving, reducing the need for labor. So it's not always that we are going to employ people from the agricultural sector. To get to a point where human beings can do, machines will do. So we are not going to employ people from the village. You understand? You're going to use technology. Okay. The idea of trickling down has been criticized. Will higher incomes and in industrial sector be saved? So, like we said earlier, that the idea was to promote investment and what saving. And it's not true. There's no way people get their money and save. And it's not always entrepreneurs get their money and use it to expand what they want. Sometimes they use to chill. Sometimes they use for corporate responsibilities. Sometimes they use to even dash out. You understand? Okay. The rural-urban migration has, for many developing countries, been far larger than the industrial sector can provide us for. Okay. What they are saying is that when you go to most of the developing countries, this assumption will not work because rural-urban migration is more than what we expect. We expect that there's rural-urban migration when labor is needed. But in our context, it's not so. Okay. So all these are, so like I said, I can't go through all the assumptions, but these are from the assumption, or I can't go through all the criticisms, but from the assumptions, you could model your own criticism. They say that wages are fixed, and it's not true. How can you say wages are fixed? Wages are not fixed. There will be a time where people have what you call labor unions. We have people who will actually come all out to say, we won't pay this amount, or we won't pay this salary. Okay. Okay. So that is it for the Lewis dual sector model. Please, any question? question. Okay. Now let's go to the roster stage of development here. He also talk about we are all under the two sector model or dual sector model. Okay. Please, are we following? He to talk about two markets. We have one for the traditional sector, and we have one for the modern capitalized sector. So we have one that believes in so much of agriculture, like the UPSA, and we have one that is so much focused on what industrialization. Okay, and with this, let me quickly summarize it. I don't have to go through everything. And with this, what he actually did was that now before a country could become industrialized, please listen, before a country to become industrialized, you need to first of all have set some conditions. So before you come to University of Ghana, you should have gotten some things. One is your WASSCE results, one is your stars, one is that. So actually, we are all in 400, right? We are applying for NSS. So before you even go to the NSS to actually apply or start, you should know your PIN code. You should get your Ghana card ready. You should get, so these are what you call preconditions. What this man is saying that before a country could advance in what they're doing, from traditional agricultural sector to industrial sector, they should focus on what you call, they should focus on some preconditions. Now, what are the preconditions? You go to them quickly. Okay, that's what you call the Russell stage of production. And once you have this condition and they are ready, then you take off. So you have the traditional sector, this particular side. And we have this part. This part is are the preconditions. This part is the description of how the traditional community looks like. So in the traditional community, the place is dominated by what? Agricultural people, and most of the things they are into are like subsistence farming. Here, these are the preconditions. Preconditions are what you have to do as a country if you want to be industrialized. These are the conditions that Rosso said you need to meet. When we go further, you meet some of them too. Once you have these conditions, and then you can take off. Okay, we have these conditions, that's why you can take off. Mean that if you've not met these conditions, you won't be able to take off, you won't be able to progress like how other countries are progressing. Okay, please, we understand this. I want you to understand the difference very, very well. Are we good? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we understand the difference.
Do I understand?
Yeah, do we understand? Are we getting the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, the first one is the description of the traditional community. The second one is the precondition. What I think we have to do. So before we need to make sure that okay, we have institutions. We need to make sure that we have the resources. We need to set our capital ready so that once we start production, which is the takeoff, we can advance to where we want to go. So let's go to the takeoff. So this is the takeoff. Where I'm hoping now is the takeoff. Okay. 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 Where I'm hoping now is a takeoff. Okay. So industrialization increases agricultural workers to the manufacturing sector, meaning that at the takeoff stage, these are some of the things that happen. So people start moving from agricultural sector to where? The industrial sector. Growth is concentrated in few regions of the country. So you will see that growth will start growing. I mean, industry will start growing in few sectors of the economy. Not everywhere, like the growth theory. You will see it somewhere. The economic transition is accompanied by new political institutions. So there will be institutions that will be supporting the growth. This is where you've taken off. So after you started the production, you can see that one, people will start moving from agricultural sector to the industrial sector. Okay, you can see that you have industries in few regions. You can see that there are institutions, there are bodies that either provide loan or that provide funding. Okay, the growth is sustaining as investment leads to increasing incomes in turn, generating more savings to further investment. You can see that as you are doing, you are going to gain more revenue. That will help you save and even expand what you're doing. Okay. The takeoff is meant to be the central notion. Takeoff is meant to be the central notion in Investor schema, and it has received the most attention and discussion. What it means is that here, when it comes to takeoff, it has received much attention. said that it meets some conditions. Okay. Rapid development is said to occur during the period of takeoff. So the key word here is the rapid development or rapid industrialization. Rapid industrialization forms the fundamental cornerstone of this good process. So these are some of the rapid processes. Okay, the success of this phase depends on the fulfillment of series of preconditions. These include, so the preconditions I was talking about earlier, these are some of them. Okay, that before a country could actually become advanced in what they're doing, need to satisfy some of these conditions. Okay, please remind me when it's 9 we close. I won't go beyond 9. Yes, please. When it's 9 close, please remind me. Okay. Transformation of the agricultural sector to achieve high agricultural productivity. So surplus of labor will be free. So labor surplus will free high agricultural productivity. So surplus labor will free labor for industry, increase food supply and raw materials, accumulation of social overhead capital, such as. So these are some signs that before you become a rapid developing industrialized country, these are the conditions you have to meet. You have to have banks which provide what we call ancillary services. You have to get skilled people who you're going to work with. Okay, you need to educate people. Okay. Okay. Out of this, you're going to do what you call the drive to maturity, where the economy will start diversing into new areas. There will be technological innovations. Okay, that you start producing new things. This is the early part of any industrialization. If you satisfy the condition that you mentioned earlier, you should be reaching this stage that you start producing things. Technological innovations will come that will provide jobs and diverse opportunities for people. Okay, good. You'll be able to produce your things, so you don't have to rely on foreign aid or importations. Okay, there'll be high mass consumptions of what you produce. Okay, there will be more industrial products. Industrial products have got to do with things that, for example, are biscuits, processed drink, everything that consumer goods that we use, they are all industrial goods. Okay. Okay, now if you understood Rousseau's theory, which said that there will be movement from traditional sector to a modern industrial sector, but some conditions have to be met. Once these conditions are met, then there will be takeoff. Takeoff is the industrialization, meaning that there will be industrialization. So in this sense, you can say that takeoff is equal to what industrialization. That's where you started. Are we clear? Okay. Let's look at some criticisms, or what are some things that people don't believe this idea holds. The first one is that many development economics argue that Rousseau's model was developed with Western culture, meaning that when it comes to African culture, our culture is not. This one is Western culture. Western culture, meaning that when you go to the Western culture, maybe they were doing that, like how we talk about the Industrial Revolution. It's happening there. But when it comes to the maybe local, most of the LDCs or least developed countries, if you look at us, our cultures are different. So that thing that we are going to adopt, that we have to meet these conditions, it won't work. Okay. These conditions seem to be present in present or developing the historical experience of the present. However, the wider applicability, even in historical terms, have been severally criticized. Even in the Western world, it was criticized because due to cultural difference. Another question is that also a generalized nature makes the model somewhat limited. So it follows that kind of generalization that it works everywhere. No, it doesn't work everywhere because people were different. Okay. Policymakers are unable to clearly identify stages as they merge together, meaning that there's no stage that you have to go through this. I mean, what are the preconditions? The preconditions are not really clear with the takeoff stage. And what are the takeoff stages? What are the things you have to do? What are the stages? he didn't state all those things. So these are criticisms that in your essay you can raise them. Okay. For us, its main use is to highlight the need for investment. So his idea that you need to set some conditions, you need to start, is basically to increase savings, not to really to become industrialized. Okay. In the case of developing countries, these preconditions are issues that governments of these countries must address in any serious attempt at industrialization. Last one. It is essentially a growth model and does not address the issue of development in the wider context. So it has kind of narrowed it down or narrowed its point that why should you have certain conditions before you can become industrialized? You understand? And he has actually mentioned these conditions. In actual sense, there could be more than this. Okay, there should be more than what he has mentioned. That will help the country industrialize. Less than this. And let's look at the last theory. Hey, there are more theories. Russell's stages of economic model is a linear model. It suggests that all countries go to the same stage, and it's not true. He said all countries that are now industrialized going to the same stage. But there are disparities. Okay. There are disparities. Okay. So that is it about the Russell's model. Please, did we understand what I just taught? What I just said is that Russell say before you become industrialized, you need to meet some conditions. So the first one, we describe how a traditional industry looks like, or a traditional society looks like. And we try to compare it to some of the preconditions we have to meet. And then we came to take off stage, which describe within the top of stage, you have what we call rapid development, where we should see this happening before we could say that you are advancing into what industrialized country. That's the basic explanation. So here too, even though he didn't compare things like how these people move from agricultural sector to industrial sector, like how Lewis described, but his own was to looking at the take-off stage, the conditions you need to meet before you can move from that traditional society towards advance. Not really concerned with labor or anything, but the whole of it. Okay. Now let's go to the last one. When I read it, in this theory don't really make sense to me. I mean, in this real sense, its application is questionable, but let's learn it. Now, without going to the slide, I want to summarize this theory for you. What this theory is saying is that one, there is an economy. Economy says that the people are deprived, like Ghana, we are deprived. We don't have conditions. We are a poor country. We are not wealthy. We have a lot of barriers. So today, but he used the word deprived. Deprived means that you cannot achieve certain things. Okay. And what's the condition? He said that the more deprived you are, or the more poor you are, the more you have the sensitivity that you have to develop. Please understand this one. The more poor you are, or the more deprived you are, the more it becomes sensitive for your people that no matter what, they have to develop. Okay. And as the people become sensitive, the more they try to come out with ideas, the more they try to expand their output, the more they try to create employment, the more they try to get educated, so that they can meet what we call the industrialization needs. So they don't have to do with a deprived community. So let's go through it. This model proposes that a number of benefits are conferred on industrial latecomers that may promote a rapid leap out of backwardness into sustained economic growth. So here, the more backward a country's economy is, the more sensitive the citizen become about its position, the greater the urge to start its industrialization on the higher note. Okay. So the more sensitive, or the more deprived you are, the more burden it puts on you the more burden it puts on your people that let's become industrialized. Once when you are burdened, you try to work things out. So it kind of gives the citizen responsibility to actually do something. The more pronounced was the stress on its industrialization in bigness or planting, enterprise. The greatness the stress upon producer goods against consumer goods. The heavier was the pressure upon the level of consumption. So this is like they are interconnected. The pressure on this leads to this. The pressure on this leads to this. The pressure on this leads to this. But the main tenet or the main argument is that the country should be very poor. And the people should have the sensitivity that we want to live out of the poverty and become an advanced or industrialized country. So what do? You try to work things out. You try to expand your consumer production. Okay. You try to make sure you have institutions that are working. You try to, so what the person said that with this theory, agriculture doesn't really play in a major role here. Okay. Agriculture doesn't play a major role in industrialization, but rather the sensitiveness or how the people are willing to expand what they're doing is what will actually promote this. Okay. So that is it for look at some problems and should I say from practical problems and this theory. Okay. Technology imports has been costly and capital intensive technology has not been more suitable for the scale of industrial production in most developed countries. So what we are saying is that guests can say before you become industrial, you need to adopt technology, you need to adopt institutions. But when it comes to most of the low developed countries, they are not adopting them. You understand? So how did they develop? Lack of technological infrastructure can adapt and improve these technologies, but we are not adapting to all these technologies. So how do we improve? Another one is inadequate skilled people. So what it means is that the major component of development in any country, that's Gershwin said, you come to the less developed country, and they are not having. Gershwin said that you should train your skilled people. But here, lots of people are not getting educated. Gershwin said that we should expand technology and infrastructures. When it comes to most of the African countries, we are not doing it. So it becomes what it means. Gershwin's theory that when industrialization is such policies or such theory is being implemented in Ghana, it will actually trigger the progress. It's not happening. Okay. Inability to export to highly competitive international markets. That's another problem. Okay. Government's role in industrialization has been inefficient. The government does not provide enough funds due to partly government overprotectiveness of industry, subsidy, overprotection of internal markets, and local monopoly conditions. Okay. And then I forgot to say this one. Small markets to take advantage of economies of scale, characteristics of imported capital intensive technology. Okay. So the other kind is that when it comes to most of the African economies, our market is small. So we're unable to rely on each other, okay, for industrialization. And say that the government does not play its role. That's another practical problem. And then we're unable to export highly, or our competition in terms of exportation is very low. That's what they are saying. So basically, that is all to discuss this evening. You don't have to go, be able to go through this, what I've taught you today, you'll be able to do part one. If you understood what we did today, you'll be able to do any of part one. Or tomorrow, when you come out, back from the part two, here I'll talk about the ISI. Where I'll talk about ISI, one nation, one factory, and I'll talk about a little about globalization. And then we are good to go. Okay. Is any question? I want to stress anybody. I know some of you have to write to. Is any question?
No. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So thank you all for joining. Tomorrow we will have our last session, and then we can deliberate on it. Tomorrow probably I'll try to make it quite earlier. Tomorrow is weekend. So let's see how it can go. All the best there. Please run a finish. You can send a person message for the explanation. Yeah, I'll be online. I've noticed. So once I get Please, I'll come up online and attend to all your messages. Any question? Bongo, Abuna, course. Please, are we all good?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. All the best.